Hello everyone, how you going, and welcome to the Halifax Explosion. Now we've been checking out all these little snippets, but I've never really checked out what all the details are surrounding this entire thing, and hopefully it covers all my questions, but I'm fairly sure nothing will ever do that, and so here we go. Starting from the start, December 6, 1917, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Wow, look at that. Jeez, 2,000 people. And I just need to pause it here to be able to read this again. Approximately 2,000 people were killed by the largest human-made explosion in history prior to the atomic bomb. Man, that's just, I don't even know if that really puts it in scale, but at least you get some perspective. I mean, that is definitely a little bit of a contradictory statement, but it's just trying to understand just how big this actual explosion was, because then to have, what, roughly 9,000 more were treated for injuries, and I can only imagine that it would have been 9,000 pretty serious injuries given that photo that we saw before. Whoa, 10,000? 25,000 people without adequate shelter. 1917. Wait, so hang on a second, I guess it was only the other week in terms of the memorial of the commemorative time. It would be, what, 104 years ago? That's a serious amount of time, of course. But really, that's the thing I'm struggling with most. It's just, it was so long ago, I didn't even know that they could even have an explosion this big. I mean, I know there was lots of kind of individual artillery that went off, but really, either way, to be in kind of comparison to an atomic bomb is pretty insane, I reckon, for 1917.
We're here atop Halifax Citadel within the fort. If you look out over my right shoulder towards the two bridges in the distance. This is the north end of Halifax. The Halifax side of the two bridges was the blast zone. On the morning in question, two ships collided in that zone. There was a lot of confusion about which direction they were going, which side of the harbor they were on, who was at fault.
Early in the morning, SS Mont Blanc, the French munition ship, came up from there along the Dartmouth side, close to shore.
Now hang on a second, before they just get rid of this little bit of a description of who he is. Joe Zamel, author of Scapegoat, the extraordinary legal proceedings following the 1917 Halifax explosion. And then who was this guy? I don't know if
which
they
direction
said.
They were going, which side. Two ships collided in that zone.
But either way, just straight off the bat to learn that it was actually two ships collided and that caused the explosion. Oh man, someone seriously stuffed up something there. And so here we go, let's just listen to what this guy has to say.
Early in the morning, SS Mont Blanc, the French munition ship, came up from there along the Dartmouth side, close to shore. The rules were that incoming ships came up the Dartmouth side, outgoing ships went out the Halifax side.
Okay, so there must be two towns? It sounds like he says the darkness side, but I can only assume that it's not the darkness side.
The Emo was coming down from the Narrows. It had left without permission. At one point, Emo went in reverse. It blew 3 signals and went in reverse. And the bow of the ship, because the ship was light in the water, you could see the propeller in the water, and they had no cargo in it. It was in ballast.
Jeez.
So the bow of the ship went to starboard and T-boned the Mont Blanc in hole number 1.
Whoa. That's a serious
The
kind of
SS Mont
stuff
Blanc
up.
came in over here, just below, just around that Halifax shipyard sign, at the bottom of Richmond Street. The ship was already on fire. It was engulfed. The crew left in a hurry.
Jeez, yeah, I can only assume that they wouldn't know what kind of cargo they were carrying, and they went, oh my god, we are on fire. I don't even know if we can get away from this, but I need to try my best. I mean, I don't know if you want to be underwater, in the sky, on land. I mean, obviously we know that the entire thing ended up being just a devastating event, but really I wonder in the moment if you're just going, I don't even know what to do, but I just don't want to be on a burning ship full of ammunition, and I don't even know, you might as well just call it TNT, like a Wile E. Coyote kind of TNT situation.
Hundreds of people were in jeopardy. I don't know how many people were killed here, but there were people on the bridge watching the fire that took place for 20 minutes. And it was just an immense catastrophe that happened within a 50th of a second. It was very close to what could be called it was a chemical explosion, but because of the compactness of it in the ship and the cocktail of chemicals, nitroglycerin, picric acid, TNT.
Oh wow, so there was TNT.
The explosion was just tremendous, and it just happened very, very quickly, just like very akin to a nuclear explosion.
Wow.
When we talk about the damage that was done, this is ground zero. I mean, this is where the explosion happened. Everything here was flat
Oh, I just need to look at this photo in some more detail. I mean, of course, we don't have that many pixels to look at, but what is it? Photo something in camera 1917 by the person Halifax? Man, that is crazy. Just look at that. Like, that has been just completely leveled. I mean, I can only assume that that's some kind of railway that has kind of survived. Well, no, you can certainly understand how 25,000 people were left displaced by something like this. You know, like the fact that they just keep comparing it to an atomic bomb. I'm just trying to wrap my head around the scale of this entire thing, because I don't know the scale of the city. Is it a small city? Is it a big city? But either way, it's a city nonetheless, I guess.
Pier 7 was over here. This would have been Pier 8. The Caracas, a ship called the Caracas, was right here, and another ship called the Cologne was right behind us. These ships were loading horses at the time. Out of the a lot of the men were killed.
What do you mean stopped? Wait, what? The blast of the explosion stopped the clock in City Hall Tower. In June 1999, the original clock was replaced, so they kind of kept it and they put it back in. I mean, I can only assume that it would have needed a few repairs, but one side is permanently set to the exact time of the explosion. Wow, I would love to see a photo. Hopefully they show this thing. Because it stopped the clock. It's just like an atomic clock. Oh, there we go.
On the day of the explosion, the citadel itself, the hill, the bulk of the hill, acted like a shock absorber, protecting much of the city beyond it, what's now known as the south end, the western parts of the city, from suffering the brunt of the damage.
Okay, so was it the north side or the south side? Because like I said, it sounded like he said darkness. I'd love to know what he actually said in terms of what town, because you have Halifax and then you can also have darkness. I'm just going to call it because I don't know what else it is. But in terms of that other map, I don't really know. Was it a north, south, east, west map? Here we go. Where did this map go? Here we go. Now this is the map I'm talking about. Now I can only assume that it would have been drawn in, I guess, a north-facing standardized kind of map format. It wouldn't have been rotated at all. But if that is the case, I can only assume that, considering it says explosion said to have happened here, then that would have been the north side. And so now he's talking about the south side, which has a hill, and so yeah, I can only imagine that. I don't know if I'll be able to find the photo again. Oh, actually, here we go. This one would have been pretty akin to just all of those buildings there, and so yeah, that's a serious thing. I mean, I guess you've even got that railway just there, and so yeah, that it would have been that. And so man, whoever took this photo right here, I'd love to know where they were, if they came from interstate, because well, obviously we know that just the devastation obviously wiped out just an entire city in one go.
Acted like a shock absorber, protecting much of the city beyond it, what's now known as the south end, the western parts of the city, from suffering the brunt of the damage.
Side.
In the immediate aftermath, it was chaos and devastation, as you can imagine. The downtown areas were hit particularly hard. Although the blast zone is a fair distance away, people were scrambling up Citadel Hill looking for refuge, looking for safety, looking for medical supplies, shelter, and so forth. Many of them came into Citadel, and they would have been fitted out in converted barracks rooms, given medical assistance, shelter, food, supplies. So some of the areas you see here directly behind me would have been a direct assistance to these people on the day of the explosion.
Wow, that's pretty insane. Let me just take that back to this entire Citadel part. Here we go. So now I can only assume that they wouldn't have been able to take everyone. I mean, I'm sure they would have loved to have helped, but really, given the fact that it was what, 25,000 people were displaced from their homes, there is certainly not going to be 25,000 people's worth of homes just in this Citadel. And really, I would love to know what the Citadel is. Is it kind of, I guess maybe a barracks on the top of the hill, in terms of they can shoot down ships coming into the harbour, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if it's a harbour or a river or whatever it may be, but either way, just looking around at this place, it has been built like an absolute fortress. Just, it's crazy. I mean, it's called the Citadel, but geez, like you can just see the level of that stone. It almost looks as though it has a moat, for goodness sake. And then even just this internal building, like everything is just super solid. And so I wonder how old this entire place is and what it was really built for in the first place. I mean, of course, like I said, I'm just going to be having 1,000,001 questions about this entire event, because like an explosion like this, you know, in the same way that Beirut or any atomic explosion, it's just going to leave behind so much history to kind of unpick. And so I can definitely understand why it's such a major event. And really, I wonder how all the publishers in terms of worldwide newspapers would have dealt with it at the time. You know, like I can only assume it would have been worldwide news, an explosion of that caliber.
To me, it symbolizes the two things. It symbolizes the devastation and the disaster and the utter sorrow, but yet it symbolizes the courage and the strength and how a community came together. You had a city of little communities that never associated with each other, never got along, never the rich and the poor and the black and the natives.
Wow.
And suddenly they were forced, as of December 6, 1917, to either get together or be gone.
Geez, well, I guess that's a very blunt way to put it, but I guess it sums it up beautifully, you know, in terms of him saying, yes, you had all of these kind of individual communities and they went, holy moly, what the hell just happened? We certainly need to work together because everyone can offer something to some regard, and so I guess you just need everyone together to just literally rebuild a city in some way. I mean, I have no idea where you would even begin in terms of just clean up and just rebuilding and where do you get all the materials from, but I guess another city is standing in its place and so they started from somewhere. Oh, wait, is this the bell
I note
tower?
that we have Cecilia Coolin with us today, who was wonderful to see you. She was 10 days old when the explosion happened, and they found her under her crib.
10 days old. Oh, that's crazy. That's great, though.
Mum and Dad, they lived in the North End, but the house caught fire, but they got out, they were safe. And I was only 10 days old, and I was thrown up against the wall, and the crib tipped over. I
Whoa.
always land against the wall. But
Wow, she
everything
seems so
else-
jovial about the entire thing. I mean, I guess you've lived an entire life and you're only 10 days old, so you don't really remember it. You're only really kind of living off what people have told you. I mean, of course, you're going to feel the effects in terms of the residual effects of everyone, like I said, rebuilding a city. But even just the fact that she was just found on the floor underneath the crib, I'm fairly sure, that's just pretty crazy. The fact that she survived it and her house was on fire or something, just overall, the entire thing is just massive, monumental story.
I was only 10 days old, and I was thrown up against the wall, and the crib tipped over. I always land
Like,
against
she's
the
happy
wall.
about it almost. Not happy, but able to laugh.
everything else, I got along all right. I hurt my back a bit. They didn't know, but they thought I was all right. But I didn't walk till I was 3 years old.
I mean, I guess that certainly makes sense. You've just kind of been thrown against a wall and you were 10 days old. I mean, the fact that she even survived it is pretty impressive. I mean, I don't know, I don't have the scale about how close she actually was, but we know how big the explosion was. I mean, I keep saying it, but I just cannot believe how big this entire thing was. And so even though her house might have burnt down or whatever it may be, just the fact that she survived it and she still is able to walk, or she was able to walk at some point, I don't know if she still can or not. Either way, the fact that she just wasn't killed in the entire thing, crazy. 1913. Wow. That same boat. Look at that. Including exhibits, arts and music. Okay then. I mean, I can only imagine they would have a massive memorial and museum dedicated to it.
Behind me is Grace, and she's working on one of the sheets that have been are in the script from the
What is that?
Book of Remembrance, which is the list of victims during the Halifax Explosion, which was just under 2,000 people recorded.
Hang on a second. Okay then, I understand and I know the numbers now, but I just don't even know what she's doing. Is she making braille out of it? Because I don't feel as though I've ever seen anyone do this. It looks as though she's almost sewing it on, and so wow, I don't really know how that even works and what they are. Maybe they're just beads. But then also I just want to take it back to this ship because that's insane. The fact that this ship, here we go, it says that the day the explosion and survived. I mean, I guess that certainly doesn't mean that it wasn't injured in the entire thing, and so maybe it's needed some repairs beyond it's just general aging repairs. But either way, the fact that it was built 4 years prior, and then so the entire company, I mean, I guess you'd kind of be proud in terms of your craftsmanship. I mean, I guess in saying that, it also does help to serve as a tribute and remembrance vessel in terms of the entire day. You can actually see a vessel from the time period and go, okay, then this is the kind of thing that we were dealing with, and it's incredible that it has survived and just really pay remembrance to the entire situation. And so I wonder when it was decommissioned, because maybe it was blown apart to some extent. Like I said, it was damaged during the explosion, or maybe it just kind of wiped it off its back and just went, okay, no worries, I'm just going to keep cruising on, and like I said, needs a couple of repairs. But man, I can only assume that it was decommissioned now and just serves as a museum piece.
Which was just under 2,000 people recorded.
Oh, of course. The shrapnel would have been insane. Oh, what?
I have had that.
Oh, wow. That is certainly something that I didn't even kind of take into consideration. The amount of shrapnel that something like that would produce in terms of glass and everything. I like the fact that I don't really even want to think about that second sentence, because that's just insane for 1917, let alone just modern day technology. And then 37 people were blinded completely. I mean, I guess some people probably would have heard it and then just kind of covered their entire face. You know, you just flinch, and so maybe there's some people were saved in that regard. But either way, if you have just a lump of concrete, brick, glass, it's just going to go straight through your eyelid, and so I just don't even really want to think about that.
I have had that Book of Remembrance translated into Braille dots, and people throughout the province and beyond have been beating it for the last 2 years. And the project's just about completed and will be unveiled here today, the first 12 columns, which eventually, when it's finished, when they're hung, will be 40 feet long.
Whoa. That's an incredible idea, though. Incredible.
The work that I'm creating in my studio is in indigo blue, and the indigo blue represents the scars that people were left with after the blast. There was a rain of oily black wet that came down upon people and coated them.
What? I would need to take that back and listen to that again. So she said indigo blue, and that's an incredible piece of stitching. I certainly hope that we get to see the entire
indigo
thing.
Indigo blue represents the scars that people were left with after the blast. There was a rain of oily black wet that came down upon people and coated them.
And coated them and scarred them? Because she said scars, and so if someone got scarred by literally, I guess, kind of acid rain, that's pretty insane. I mean, I guess it certainly makes sense when you have that much material that is just the explosive material just raining down on top of you. It's certainly not going to be very healthy for you, so to say. And I guess even on top of the fact that there is not going to be any shelters anymore for you to take shelter from the acid rain, and so the entire thing is just a domino effect of very unlikely situations, is one way to put it.
In so much that they were unrecognizable. And when their scars were healing.
Wait, so they actually did get scarred by the entire thing? I mean, I know she said it, but I just wanted to double confirm it, and that's pretty darn scarily impressive in some way in terms of just what that entire cloud can do. Honestly, it's almost just comparable to a nuclear fallout and just raining ash in terms of what you see in movies. That's the only time I've ever seen it, certainly, of course. But really, it's just a very similar kind of situation. I feel as though just the absolute devastation and then just the after effects. It basically is just an atomic bomb that's gone off an entire city in 1917.
And when their scars were healing, they were indigo blue.
But the passage of time, it could not wash away the stains on their skin from December's black rain. Can you imagine how it must have been?
No,
that
honestly,
morning,
no.
December 1917, when down from the heavens destruction it came.
That honestly almost looks like a double brick house, and the entire front wooden facade has kind of been ripped off. But either way, I mean, I guess there's kind of a shell still standing. You kind of looks like a 2-year-old's drawing of a house still, but I certainly wouldn't want to live there, not with all those splinters, if nothing else.
Covered the city in a cold black rain. Covered the city in a cold black rain. Covered the city in a cold black rain.
There we go. I guess that's going to be the end of the video, but man, that is an insane kind of thing. Obviously, there were just so many different little things, and like I said, questions I'm going to have. But even just coming back to the start here, I just need to read these numbers again. Over 10,000 buildings and homes were destroyed or severely damaged. The explosion left approximately 25,000 people without adequate shelter. I mean, I can only imagine that the numbers would be even more inflated in a modern city in terms of just the density that everyone lives. But regardless, 25,000 people were left without shelter, and then even obviously these numbers as well. Just the entire thing, just completely devastating, and man, that's one hell of an explosion. Honestly, I wish we had some kind of video of the entire thing. I mean, of course, it's just completely devastating, and you certainly can't change it now, but man, someone definitely stuffed up, and all just even from the fact that it was just a collision between two boats because someone left without whatever it was, without permission, basically. And so I guess if nothing else, it just certainly shows you how a snowball effect can just absolutely grow completely out of control, to the fact that it just does something. I don't even know if I'll be able to find it, but just there we go. Where's an image? Surely there's got to be something. Here we go. Just this photo, I just need to come back to it every single time because it is just honestly, it looks like someone's just illustrated a completely leveled city that hasn't ever been happened. But no, that actually is a real photo, I can only assume. And really, you just look at that. Like I said, the railway is still there. There's one building, I don't know what that building would have been, but once again, kind of like that ship, that's one hell of a building to be standing, because you can just see the absolute destruction. It is honestly incredible. And so the fact that it was what, TNT and ammonium nitrate, I think it was, and something else, if nothing else, it certainly does make you have an immense respect for just the power that we we have kind of created in terms of some of these explosive things. And like I said, it's 104 years ago. Like really, if we wanted to do this now, well, we have the technology to do it again, and even on a bigger scale. But just luckily, it seems as though we're not going to be using that because everyone knows it's just going to be the end of the world. Anyway, on that very cheery note, I think I'm going to call it there. So thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to do the YouTube algorithmic things down below, and also make sure to just recommend any videos that you think I should check out, regardless of whether it's on this topic, just any other topic, or whatever it may be. Also, make sure to check out the original video in the description below, because that was just an incredible video in terms of just historically, I can only assume accurate, and even the braille and everything like that. Or hey, maybe even just want to consider subscribing so that you don't miss another one of these in the future. But all in all, have a good one and see ya.